Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kay Simpson, and I am the president and CEO of the Springfield Museums. It is my honor to welcome you to today's members event for the Outwin American Portraiture Today exhibition. We are delighted to have so many people in attendance using this virtual platform. The Springfield Museums is proud to be the New England premiere of the Outwin American Portraiture Today exhibition from the National Portrait Gallery at the Smithsonian. We are grateful for the support from the Mass Mutual Foundation, Health New England, and Freedom Credit Union that is making it possible for us to present this outstanding artwork in our museum galleries. We'd like to officially open this event with the land acknowledgement, which I will now read. We want to acknowledge that we gather as the Springfield Museums on the traditional land of the Eastern Algonquian peoples, including the Agawam and the Nonotuck indigenous peoples, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have continued to steward the land throughout the generations. At this point, I would like to welcome Charlene Smolkowitz, Commercial Credit Manager from Freedom Credit Union, so she can introduce our next speaker. Charlene.
Good evening, and thank you, Kay. I am pleased to introduce Heather Haskell, Vice President and Director of the Art Museums. Heather holds a bachelor's degree from Smith College and a master's degree in art history from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She has worked at the Springfield Museums for over 30 years, serving in curatorial, collections management, and leadership roles. In the last 5 years, she and her colleagues have prioritized the display of exhibitions that speak to contemporary issues, and Heather was passionate about sharing the outstanding works of the Outwin, American Portraiture Today, with the Springfield community. I invite her to now say a few words about this extraordinary exhibition and the important stories portrayed through the show.
Thank you, Charlene. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special event held in conjunction with the Outwin American Portraiture Today, an extraordinary exhibition organized and toured by the National Portrait Gallery. The show is on view in the D'Amour Museum of Fine Arts through April 4th. We are honored to serve as the first venue for the exhibition and thrilled to offer the outstanding and thought-provoking works to our visitors and the New England community. I am especially pleased that Dorothy Moss, the National Portrait Gallery's Curator of Painting and Sculpture and Director of the Outwin Bouchever Portrait
ahead and begin because I missed the end of Heather's comments, but I want to not delay us. I am so pleased to be here. I'm Dorothy Moss, Curator of Painting and Sculpture at the National Portrait Gallery. I am absolutely honored and delighted that the Outwin 2019 toured to the Springfield Museums. As some of you know, I spent 6 years of my life in Western Massachusetts. My most formative years were spent in Northampton and Williamstown, Massachusetts. So I have a special place in my heart for the Springfield area. And I hope that this exhibition will deeply touch the community around Springfield. There's something for everyone here, which is what makes the Outwin so incredibly special. I invited 3 of our artists to be with us tonight, whose work is activist, Lava Thomas, Cedric Huckaby, and Kate Capshaw all approach portraiture through serial work in portraiture. They create series about an issue that needs more visibility. And in the case of Lava, she looks back at history to tell stories that may be at risk of being forgotten. Cedric looks to his own community, his neighbors and friends and family members. And Kate looks to those unaccompanied youth who are part of all of our communities, whose stories very much need visibility. And each of the artists with us tonight takes a deeply empathetic approach to portraiture. I'm going to stop for a minute because Ashley, I think it was your turn to speak, and I'll let you jump back in.
Can everyone hear me? I am so sorry. I apologize. I'm having connectivity issues.
It's okay. There was a glitch, and so I think we all got thrown, but we're on.
Oh boy, well, thank you, Dorothy. I'm supposed to be introducing you, but thank you so much for you all being so gracious, and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is keeping safe. So as mentioned, my name is Ashley Bogle. I'm Assistant General Counsel and Director of Legal Services at Health New England, and we are truly honored to represent, I am truly honored to represent Health New England tonight and continue the long-standing and important relationship shared by our organizations. It's also great to see our friends at Freedom Credit Union tonight, who are important community partners. So we are very proud to share this opportunity with them. Participating tonight brings to life the Health New England mission to improve the health and lives of the people we serve, and allows us to uphold the promise that we made to this community. We are committed to doing our part to ensure social justice and understand that taking the time to pause and reflect on American diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is more important than ever. Seeing our mission and vision come to life through portraiture is an amazing experience, and we are so excited to share this with everyone at Springfield Museums. With every portrait, every artist, every guest of this exhibit, we demonstrate why we should be here living, raising families, and working in this region. On behalf of Health New England, our associates and our families, I want to express deep appreciation to the visionaries who made this happen and who honor our history and our future with this spectacular project. I do have the honor of reintroducing Dorothy Moss to you, who is the curator of painting and sculpture at the National Portrait Gallery and coordinating curator of the Smithsonian Women's History Initiative. Moss directed the 2013, 2016, and 2019 Outwin Bouchever portrait competitions. Her upcoming exhibitions include Hung Liu, Portraits of Promised Lands, which includes a scholarly article catalog to be published by the Yale University Press, One Life, Maya Lin, and Kinship. Her past exhibitions include Sweat of Their Face, portraying American workers, co-curated with David C. Ward, One Life, Cynthia Plath, co-curated with Karen Kukul. In 2015, Moss initiated the Portrait Gallery's first performance art series, Identify, an ongoing series which has included 10 commissioned performances by internationally recognized artists. Moss graduated from Smith College, earned her master's degree in art history from the Williams College graduate program in the history of art, and a PhD in art history from the University of Delaware. So without further ado, and again, please welcome Dorothy Moss. And thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you so much, Ashley, and thank you to your team at Health New England. We are so grateful for your support. And I love what you said. This exhibition and competition is one that celebrates inclusivity and diversity, and hopefully brings to light the stories of every visitor who will walk in the museum. I did get a message that it looks like, are you having weather up there? Because I think everyone from the Springfield Museum has lost connectivity, but as long as everyone can hear me, we are going to keep going. So as I was saying, this exhibition has something for everyone. I am deeply inspired by the work that is submitted, and it is the vision of Virginia Outwin Bouchever. Many of the Outwin and Bouchever family members are on with us tonight, and I'm deeply grateful for their support. They really have made this exhibition and competition rise to the highest levels, and we are deeply indebted to them. And I love the fact that Virginia Outwin Bouchever was a visionary, and she saw the need for portraiture. Representation matters now more than ever, and she saw that years ago. The competition started in 2006 and is only gaining traction and global recognition. So let me share my screen now. Okay. So a year ago, this week, we were celebrating the opening of the Outwin Bouchever portrait competition in Washington. It seems like it was a different world. And we are happy that the show is now in Springfield. The exhibition has gained in national prestige over the years. And I think that when Amy Sherald won the first place in 2016 for her 2013 portrait, Miss Everything, Unsuppressed Deliverance, the exhibition rose in prestige. She's an incredible, extraordinary artist. And she really came into national attention when she won first prize. As part of her first prize, she was commissioned to paint a portrait for the collection, and Michelle Obama chose her to paint her official portrait for the National Portrait Gallery. And quickly, this portrait became an iconic work in the history of art. It has transformed lives. As you might remember, this little girl, Parker Curry, came and stood in line to see the painting when it was unveiled, and she could not look away from it. She's since published a book called Parker Looks Up. And one thing that I love about portraiture is the ability for young people to see themselves in the stories of others, for all of us to find connections through portrayals of others and have a deeper sense of the humanity that connects all of us. The competition is juried by guest jurors along with National Portrait Gallery staff. The 2019 exhibition is co-curated by me and Taina Caragol, who is our brilliant curator of painting and sculpture and Latinx history and culture at the National Portrait Gallery. She served on the jury along with our chief curator, Brandon Brain Fortune, and invited jurors Byron Kim, who is an artist and senior critic at Yale, Harry Gamboa Jr., who is an artist, writer, and faculty member at the California Institute of the Arts, Lauren Haynes, who is curator of contemporary art at Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, and Jefferson Pender, who is an artist and professor of sculpture and contemporary practices at the School of Art at the Art Institute of Chicago. The jury process is rigorous, and I want to play a clip of Jefferson Pender at the end of a long day on our final day of jurying in person. We bring all of the artworks that had been selected as semifinalists into Washington, and we spend a long time looking and thinking and talking about portraiture. It's absolutely magical. And I really wanted to focus in on what Jefferson Pender said at the end of that day, because I think it's extremely relevant.
As a juror, I think that I'm most impressed with art that is about something, that is sensitive enough to know that we need more than a free picture right now. In this day and age, there's a lot of people who are creating work that's technically good, but it's not always satisfying. I'm looking for something that kind of digs a little deeper, that gets into more about identity, to unravel something that's hard to finger on. Sometimes these works don't have to be pretty or beautiful, but it's about the conflict. It's about the artist addressing an issue. For me, a good portrait has power. A good portrait sets next with other people and starts a conversation that allows the viewer to finish it. A good portrait also gives you a sense of history and time and placement. It tells us about ourselves now, but a good portrait will be seen like 100 years from now. We'll be able to make a contribution even then. Recognize anything else. Maybe existing.
So I love that Jefferson Pender said a good portrait is futurist, because what does stand out to us in the jury selection process is this work of art speaking to the next generation? And believe it or not, you can feel that when you're looking at works of art together like this and talking about where this work of art is taking us into the future. Where is this work of art taking our museum into the future? Is it would it fit into our strategic priorities as an institution? And that's something we think deeply about. And with every iteration of the competition, which happens every 3 years, we rethink the rules. We make sure that we are open to artwork that is in line with our strategic priorities and goals as an institution, and that is in line with where portraiture is going as an art form, which is why this year we included artwork that looks back at the past. The rules used to be that the work had to have been made from life sittings where the artist and subject were together. But now we allow for artwork that looks at historical subjects who may have been written out of the history books, who address absence in our collections. And that's where Lava's work comes in, and I'll let her talk a bit more about that. But just for some statistics, we had 2,675 entries from all 50 states, Washington, DC, and Puerto Rico. We had 46 finalists in a variety of media, which was really exciting. Our finalists end up being like an alumni club. These artists connect with each other, they help each other. I love hearing that one artist has helped another find a job, or made a connection to a gallery, or just helped, with a community project. There's so much camaraderie. And that to me is one of the gifts of this exhibition, that we create these networks of influence. Again, the jury process is extremely rigorous. The entries come in online initially, and then when we make a selection of about 100 semi-finalist works, we then bring that work into a storage facility, and we spend a day looking closely and thinking. This is Taina Caragol, who is the co-curator of the Outwin 2019 and curator at the Portrait Gallery, talking in depth about the work that she is interested in terms of Latinx artists who she may have come across in her travels. We are looking for regional diversity in this. We're looking for a diversity of media. We always want to see new approaches to portraiture, but we're also really interested in the academic approach to portraiture. So we want a wide variety to really give a snapshot of where portraiture is today. And the work has to have been made in the 3-year period since the last competition. So not only are we seeing where portraiture is going in that past 3 years, we're also getting a snapshot of what's happening in this country. What's at the top of national dialogues? What are our communities around the country thinking about and concerned about? And artists, as Jefferson Pender said, there's a futuristic aspect to this because artists are visionaries. So they're sort of ahead of the curve. They're representing topics that are only gaining in relevance. And I think we can see that with this selection from the Outwin. It opened a year ago, but I think in many ways the work is even more relevant today than it was last year at this time. The first prize winner is Hugo Crosthwaite. He was born in Tijuana, and he lives between Tijuana and San Diego, and he won for his portrait of Berenice Chávez, who is a young woman he met, and she told him her story of coming into California from Mexico, the trials and tribulations that she endured, and ultimately her resilience and persistence. And this is a stop motion animation. It's 3 minutes, and it's just absolutely riveting. Each one is hand drawn. And I encourage you to see it in the galleries if you're in Springfield, or watch it online. It's also available on our website. For the first time this year, we had a performance artist enter, Sheldon Scott, who will be performing his piece, Portrait Number 1 Man, live at Springfield in the Damour. Entered this beautiful, really moving and poignant performance that looked back and paid homage to his enslaved ancestors in coastal South Carolina. And the piece is accompanied by a beautiful film that literally goes from sun up to sundown on the plantation where his enslaved ancestors lived, where his mother is still living in South Carolina. And now I want to introduce Lava, who will tell you about her portrait of Lottie Green Varner from her Mugshot portrait series of women in the Montgomery bus boycott. Welcome, Lava. Sounds like you're muted. Not yet.
Can you hear
There.
me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dorothy. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you in the Springfield Museum community. Thank you all. Mugshot Portraits, Women of the Montgomery Bus Boycott, takes a contemporary look back at a powerful yet under-acknowledged legacy of Black women's activism through a series of 12 portraits based on mugshots of women who were arrested during the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955 and 1956, a foundational event of the Civil Rights Movement. I chose to look at this period of American history for its relevance to the present, the resurgence of misogyny, racial hostility and legal violence, the ascent of white supremacy in the executive branch, and the methodical erosion of hard-won civil rights laws and protections. The popular history of the Montgomery bus boycott is well known. Rosa Parks' arrest for refusing to give up her seat to a white passenger on a segregated Montgomery bus, the ensuing year-long boycott led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the NAACP lawsuit, which resulted in the Supreme Court ruling that deemed segregation on some Montgomery buses unconstitutional. That history doesn't include the women who initiated the boycott, the women who were the chief strategists, fundraisers, carpool organizers and drivers, or the thousands of domestic workers who refused to ride the bus, financially crippling the bus company, as well as businesses in downtown Montgomery. Boycotting was against the law in Alabama, and these women, many of whom we know little more than their names, were arrested with other boycott leaders. When the boycott leaders learned that mass arrests were imminent, they turned themselves in rather than suffer the humiliation of being arrested in their homes or places of employment. They seized the moment of surrender and made it their own, dressing in their Sunday best to maintain their dignity and refusing to hang the booking numbers around their necks as if they were criminals. I chose to draw the portraits instead of painting them because the act of drawing is accessible. We have all used a pencil and engaged in some form of mark making. The notion of labor is embedded in each drawing with the accumulation of thousands of strokes. The materiality of the portrait, pencil on paper, is a metaphor for the fragility of this.
Hi, I'm watching it on my computer.
The ease with which it can be erased if it is preserved.
I logged in again.
The portraits have to be protected
There?
and treated with care, framed and kept out of direct sunlight to prevent yellowing and fading. The portrait scale, slightly larger than life size, is designed so that the viewer can have an intimate one-on-one relationship with them. Mugshot portraits honor the leadership and sustained labor of Black women who were both the backbone and at the forefront of the Civil Rights Movement. Their portraits remind us of the power of individual and collective acts of resistance by ordinary people and inspire us to recognize that we too have the power to change the course of history. Thank you.
Thank you, Lava. Really extraordinary work. If I could ask everyone who's not speaking to mute, that would be wonderful. We can hear some background interference. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Lava. I'm so inspired by your work and grateful to you for this work. It is absolutely stunning when you see these drawings in person, and the stories behind them are so powerful. So Lava, thank you. Next, I'd like to move to Cedric Huckabee, who is based in Fort Worth, Texas, to talk about his series, Our Lamentations.
Thank you, Dorothy. So the series of works that I created called Our Lamentations, it has to do with death in the Black community. And I literally used the memorial T-shirt, and that's one of the names for it. That T-shirt has a number of names, and you've probably seen it. We've all, if you don't have it, if no one's ever done this in your families, or you don't know about it, you've probably seen it in recent media, where you see people wearing T-shirts with the deceased person on the T-shirt. And I thought that might be a interesting way to talk about death in the Black community. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about that is because the higher death rate in the African American community, and it's various. There are a variety of reasons for that. Some that we can see now in that are highlighted, that has to do with police brutality, maybe healthcare issues. If we look at what's been going on with COVID, one of the things we've seen recently is how the COVID pandemic has had a more profound effect upon the Black community. There is issues with infant mortality, Black on Black crime, and even just dealing with death itself for normal reasons. And so my deal in this series was to look at the death that happens in our community using the funerary T-shirt as a type of metaphor and a way to discuss that. And you know, it's a way to bring this up because I think that death it's one of those things everybody deals with it. We all have to deal with the subject of death. But I think that it was important to just look at particularly that issue as it deals with us, and think about all the different ways and things that affect us as a Black community. And as a nation. I think we'll find that when we look at these issues, they are national issues, they are local issues, they affect us personally, and they affect us generally. And so a number of the portraits, you'll see quilts in the background, and I try to make a connection between the quilt and the person. I also try, you know, there's many of the little images on the shirts are in squares or rectangular shapes, and there is usually some kind of connection with that. And so basically it has to do with that as a subject. And it's interesting that since I've been working on this series for a number of years, and the issues have not gone away, but they have been since the time that I've been working on it. It seems like some of the issues have been exacerbated, and they've come to the forefront when we look at some of what's been going on recently. So this is my way of expressing and discussing and talking about it. It's not necessarily something that's looking at just the negatives, but it's just like the memorial T-shirt itself. There is an aspect of this project that has to do with memorializing some of the people who have passed away.
Thank you so much, Cedric. I'm proud to say that Cedric will be featured in one of my upcoming exhibitions that I'm co-curating with Taina Carrigal, Robin Asleson, and Leslie Ureña at the National Portrait Gallery in 2023, titled Kinship, where he will show this series. And we have talked a bit about adding sculptural elements. A lot of Cedric's work is built out with paint built up into sculptural elements. And so I'm really excited to work with you, Cedric. And Cedric and I have known each other for many years. I just wanted to end the slides of your work with this image that I took in October last year in Dallas when I visited you, Cedric. And this is in the artist project space that you have created out of the house that your grandmother lived in. And I don't know if you wanted to say a word or two about that.
Just that, you know, as everything is connected, for instance, the memorial t-shirts, the house or the space that Dorothy is talking about, it's my grandmother's old house, and it's kind of like has a connection to those t-shirts in the sense that it's in the process of becoming a project space for artists and for expression, and as a space that has will have, I hope, a positive effect on the surrounding community. So that's it. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you so much, Cedric. And now I'm so pleased to welcome New York-based painter Kate Capshaw, who will tell us about her series Unaccompanied.
Good evening. I'm very thrilled to be included in this. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, Springfield, Massachusetts. I painted 8 portraits. I got very interested in all of the youth that I was noticing on the sidelines and sort of on the edges of places where I would walk. And it was time for me to paint something that I really needed or had to paint. And I listened to this beautiful doctor talk about, she gave a lecture about downtown Los Angeles. And she ended by saying, after 35 years of serving the underserved, I am not going to take off my white coat until the homeless youth of Los Angeles have been seen. And essentially they aren't seen, they're invisible, they don't really want to be seen. I had been wanting to paint members of that community for a very long time. I was levitating out of my seat because I wanted to run to this doctor and say, if I had the opportunity to be proximate to these young people, I could paint them, and then that would be a face, and then I don't know what we'll do with them or where they'll hang, but people need to see these young people. So she said, great, would you paint some young people that I think would be interested in sitting for you? I got a 10-foot by 8-foot corner of an abandoned childcare center in an old hospital that it wasn't even really being used. But that's all that I needed. And then these young people would come in, and I realized that I was hosting them because they were my guest. And in that guest host relationship, all I wanted to do was honor them. I wanted them to be the king or queen of the day. Started with the music. They chose their music. We played the music. It was always a little bit of a pop quiz, like, you don't really have my music. I said, go on, I think I might have your music. It would be whatever they wanted to eat. It was such a powerful experience for me because while I knew that the federal law has a definition of what a homeless youth is, and it includes the word unaccompanied. And the word resonated with me so much because I wouldn't want anyone that I loved or cared for, a neighbor, anyone, to be unaccompanied for most of everything that happens in our lives. And so the fact that these sessions would end with such a feeling of accompaniment, by definition, that's how they came in to see me and meet me. And then the leaving was always with embrace and laughter. And I couldn't help but feel that resonates in so many ways now, even more, because we all need to accompany each other in all forms of life. And when we can see each other and spend time with each other and share the things that we have in common, I think that it goes a very long way. And then I sort of wrote this thing and I'm realizing I'm not even reading it, but it was a really powerful experience for me, and I am very proud of the work. I went on to do more because I did LA, and then I was very much wanting to do America and represent the youth in America that is not being served or seen. They don't have a voice. Some of them are too young to vote, and they can't raise funds for things. So anyway, thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, everybody. And I got to meet Cedric, and we had wonderful conversations about talking and painting at the same time, talking and drawing, and how much did we talk and what didn't we say, what did we want to say, and just it's a great experience.
Thank you so much, Kate. Such powerful work. So I hope you all can see the thread that runs through these artists' work and so many of the artists who were included in the Outwin. This approach to portraiture, which is purposeful, which is inclusive, which makes absence visible, which brings people out of the margins and into the center of the frame. And as a sort of a bookend to the image I showed of the little girl looking up at Amy Sherrill's portrait of Michelle Obama, what I love most is watching young people interact with the portraits. I think you'll see that in Springfield, taking the time to get to know these people who have been portrayed, to know their stories, and to become aware of various circumstances, and to hopefully take up an activist cause, having witnessed these stories. So there is a continued tour of the exhibition after Springfield, and I really want to say thank you right now to Marlene Harrison, who is the traveling exhibitions coordinator at the National Portrait Gallery. We had no idea we would be touring this exhibition in a pandemic, and I want to again thank the Springfield Museums for being brave and for doing this and making it work and making this work accessible to your visitors. From Springfield, the exhibition will travel to the Mildred Lane Kemper Art Museum in St. Louis. So if you live in that area, you may have a chance to see the exhibition in person. And I'm thrilled to announce that the call for entries is now open for our 2022 exhibition. The call is open. You can find it on the National Portrait Gallery's website, and it's open until January 29th, 2021. Taina Caragol is the director of the 2022 competition, and we have an incredible panel of jurors, including the co-curator of the 22 exhibition, Leslie Urania, who is curator of photographs at the National Portrait Gallery, Kathleen Ash Milby from the Portland Art Museum. I'm serving as a juror, Kathy Opie from the University of California, Los Angeles, artist Ebony Patterson, who is a Chicago-based artist, and John Yao, who is a critic and scholar who teaches at Rutgers. So please encourage your friends. If you're an artist, jump into this, embrace this. It is a really, I think, incredible experience. And as you can see with our panelists here, it puts you in this incredible community of creatives and activists. So with that, I will jump to questions. And I think we do have a moderator for the questions.
Hi, Dorothy. Thank you so much for those incredible comments. And thank you so much to the artists who spoke to us tonight, Sedrick, Lava, and Kate. We are so grateful for your commentary and for sharing this work with all of us here in Springfield. My name is Maggie North, and I have the wonderful job of being the curator of art here in Springfield. And I am very pleased to moderate a question and answer session. So I welcome everybody to populate the Q&A box as well as the chat box with any questions that you may have, and do include who the question is for. I do apologize for some technical issues at the beginning of this call, so I may have missed some of the questions that came in earlier. If you did submit a question earlier, please feel free to resubmit it as well. And as we wait for a few of those questions to come in, I did have a question actually for Lava, but the other artists could chime in as well. I was so intrigued, Kate, to hear about your process of talking with the subjects that you were painting and finding that amazing connection with them. And it seems that, Cedric, you've done a lot of that as well. Lava, I know that you are working with historical subjects, and so you don't often have the chance to meet the people that you're drawing, but I wondered if you find that the process of art making is a way to commune with their stories as well.
Definitely. My body of work in portraiture primarily deals with archival photography, and most of the subjects have passed on. So there really isn't an opportunity for me to engage with them in real time, but I am engaging with a history that needs to be excavated or needs to be uncovered. So I really take a lot of time doing research, deep dive, trying to find out as much as I can about each subject that I'm portraying. And when I started this project, there really wasn't a lot of information about the subjects, but now there has been research through Alabama State University. So I'm able to find out more about the women, more than just their names. Another wonderful consequence is that relatives or descendants of many of these women have contacted me and shared their family stories and shared stories with me about the women. So that's been very gratifying.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. And I'm always struck by the way in which your portrait, which is on view in the Outwin, really meets the gaze of the viewer when you see it. So thank you for speaking to us about that as well. I'm not seeing additional comments or questions come through in the chat. Oh, here's one. All right, a question for Dorothy and the Springfield team, please. Are the portraits hung in a similar order from museum to museum, or does that change based on the curators at each space? Dorothy, do you want to start, and then maybe I can fill in the Springfield end?
Sure, it changes with each space because the spaces are also very different. The National Portrait Gallery, if you haven't been, is one of the oldest buildings in Washington. It has vaulted ceilings and marble floors and columns, and it is an unusual space to show contemporary art, but we make it work. And we leave it to the curators of each venue to study the exhibition and think about the themes and really work with their own space. And we often have conversations along the way. And if there's something we know that we need to share about the arrangement of a series or the scale, the artists also have input into all of this, the scale of a video projection. We all work together. Maggie, I'm sure you've done a beautiful job, and hopefully I'll get there before the show closes.
Thank you. We would love to see you here in Springfield, and we'd love to see everybody, all of the artists as well here in Springfield, if that is able to happen. We so enjoyed installing the exhibition here. It's always an interesting puzzle to figure out where each piece is going to go and to give each one its moment, but it was an enjoyable process for us, and we're so pleased to have some advice from the curators at the National Portrait Gallery. I do have another question for you, Dorothy. Will there be a theme for the 2022 Outwin Bouchabor portrait competition?
It's a great question. There's never a theme, but as I mentioned before, certain themes emerge based on what topics are in the national dialogue. So the work has to have been made between 2019 and 2022. So I'm imagining there will be a lot about COVID, about systemic racism and the protests and all of the issues that are coming to the fore right now. I think it will probably be a really fascinating exhibition because so much is bubbling up to the surface and artists are in lockdown working, which I'm so glad they are, because we need to hear from them. So while there's not a theme, there are always very pertinent topical issues that are addressed in the portraits.
Excellent, thank you. And I do have a question for all of the artists. Perhaps you can all answer individually. Did your selection to be part of the Outwin change how your work was being viewed in other spaces or increase interest in your work by collections or collectors or other museums? And that's from a Patricia. Cedric, do you want to kick that one off?
Sure. It's always a wonderful thing being in this in the Outwin. You have so many viewers that see it, so many people that would have never seen it before, and I think this is it's a very popular show that exhibition at the museum itself. I don't know, like according to all of their exhibitions, which ones might rank the highest in terms of viewership, but
this is one.
This is okay. So it's a wonderful thing, and I hear from a lot of people from around the country that have seen the work, rather it was at the National Portrait Gallery or at one of the museums that it travels to. And I've personally been to some of the there are times where I will travel to the show when it's at various museums and have discussions with artists and audiences in those places. And so I think it's wonderful and a beneficial thing.
And I'll say this is Cedric's second time to be in the Outwin. Artists are allowed to enter more than once. And so he was a prize winner in our 2016 Outwin for his self-portrait.
Thank you, that's excellent. Lava, would you like to answer on your behalf?
Oh, you're muted. We heard you for a minute.
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. Yes, sorry. Okay. Yes, this is my first time in the Outwin, so it's been absolutely wonderful. And I'll echo what Cedric said, that people send me shots from the National Portrait Gallery when the exhibition was there. And, you know, it's an honor and it's prestigious to be in that, to be a part of that competition. So I would say that since last year, there's been a lot of interest in my work, and I am very grateful for that.
Wonderful, thank you. And Kate, did you want to add any commentary?
I guess the commentary would be that I'm the new kid on the block, or I felt like it was unbelievable to be a part of this group. It was unthinkable. It took encouragement for me to press send. Months before that, I didn't know what a PDF was, and a friend encouraged me to get a real photographer to take photographs. And so it's been a learning experience, and it has been so validating and encouraging for me to take myself seriously. And so I continue to paint daily, and I've never been happier in my life. And I feel very blessed to be asked to take a seat at the table, I guess, be what I would like to say. So I really like this dinner table. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have a number of other questions coming in. Thank you to all of the attendees who are sending questions. There was a question about how many works are featured in the exhibition. It's 46 works. And I'll hand it over to Dorothy for our next question. Somebody asked how you would compare the portraiture of today to portraiture 100 years ago. And I know that's discussed a little bit in the catalog.
That's a great question. Well, in our museum, even in the National Portrait Gallery in the last 10 years, I'd say portraiture has changed a lot, or at least the way we think about portraiture. We're more open to conceptual work, to performance art. There doesn't need to be a face. There can be text only. We are very expansive in our view of portraiture. And I think about 100 years ago, there was a more traditional concept of portraiture. It's very interesting to me to watch with this competition how portraiture changes every 3 years. We see such creativity in the approaches to portraiture, such a variety of media, and ways of grappling with identity. So that's a big question, but that's my attempt to answer that.
Thank you. I think that was great. And one thing that I think is mentioned in the catalog as well is portraiture is more accessible today because the variety of media have expanded as well. I thought that was a powerful statement from the catalog. Let me just see if other questions have.
I will say one more thing about portraiture, and something that we're working hard on at the Portrait Gallery. Traditionally, portraiture has been for the elite and the powerful. And in our approach to portraiture from a variety of media and a variety of ways of looking at history, a more inclusive lens on history, we're opening it up and breaking down those hierarchies so that it's not just for the powerful, for the presidents, for those in control. It's for all of us. We should all be able to see each other through this genre. And so I do think that, that there's a lot of work to be done, but this exhibition and competition moves us forward.
Thank you. And I believe we probably have time for just one or two more questions. We did have a question for the artists, which is, did you gear your projects to the competition, or were these projects ongoing works that you just decided to enter into the competition? And maybe we can do the same sequence. Cedric, if you want to jump in first.
Definitely, it was an ongoing investigation. And you know, I just chose one that you know, I thought would that I wanted to enter into the competition. So
thank you. And Lava, was that the same for you as well?
I worked on this series for 2 years, and actually it's ongoing because I discovered more mugshots, more women. I chose the portrait that actually took the longest. I chose my favorite one. The woman is wearing this beautiful satin, it looks like a satin brocade suit, I imagine. So that was the one that I entered, and I crossed my fingers.
And it was a success. Kate?
I entered very late. Again, I don't think I was perceiving myself, for sure I wasn't perceiving myself as someone who was going to enter a painting competition. So again, I'm thankful for the encouragement. And then it was, you know, nail biting and knuckle cracking. And it's, again, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. We're so excited that you're all here with us virtually and represented in the exhibition. So thank you so much. There was one question in our chat about guidelines for the portrait competition. I'm sure these can be found on the Smithsonian website. Dorothy, maybe you could speak to that.
Yes, portraitcompetition.si.edu will get you to the information about how to enter and the rules, deadlines, and all of the information you need.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm sure you'll be receiving an amazing selection, and we can't wait to see what the next competition brings. We are nearing 6:30, which means we're coming to the end of our program tonight. I want to close by expressing deep gratitude for all of our wonderful speakers who joined us, as well as to the sponsors of this exhibition and our essential audience of dedicated Springfield Museums members. Thank you so much, and a virtual round of applause for all of you. We're all muted, but you'll see us. And thank you for all who participated this evening. We hope that you will be able to visit the D'Amour Museum of Fine Arts to view the Outwin American Portraiture today, and also to view our complimentary exhibition of local portraiture, This Is Us, Regional Portraiture today. We wish you all a wonderful evening, and thank you again for joining us. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Thank you to your team. Thank you, Kate, Lava, and Cedric.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Great night. Thank you.